Hello and welcome to week 8 FUT Weekly podcast. It's a content episode and I have with me, as you might expect, content expert JoshXLS. Hello.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been an interesting week this week, so there's a lot to talk about.
Indeed. We also have with us game critic and consultant Brammers. Hello, welcome back.
Hello, thanks for having me. Very excited to be back. Just finished a tough squad battle game, so I've been warming up by griddying and shushing the AI like the grown-up human being I am.
So you've been playing Rush then?
Yes, indeed. But yeah, so excited to talk about Trailblazers and all the other calamity of the new season.
Nice, yeah. And finally, we have market expert, of course, content expert too, Nate, the FUT Accountant. Hello.
Howdy, Ben. It's great to be back on. And yeah, a lot of calamity with the season indeed, and just kind of maybe an upturn in SBCs for the players at least. I don't know, a little bit at least.
Yeah. We've had some big ticket SBCs happening more recently, and let's start with our pound for pound nominations. And yeah, we come to you first, Nate. I know you sometimes like to pick maybe a slightly more kind of trading angle, but you know, whether it's someone who helped you to that. What did you get? 10 wins, 5 losses this weekend, which is very good, I think.
Yes. You know, there wasn't anybody from the current Trailblazers team that did, and the cards that I used to do that weren't anything new. It's a hero and icon were the only difference in the squad, but I tried a player in Rivals early this weekend that I was just shocked by the price with, and especially for the fact that he is the best left back in his league. I'm going Grimaldo. Grimaldo's got his pace back. He's got the whipped pass plus. He has anticipate. I just think for that price, if you're running any sort of Bundesliga links, like that's your guy. I mean, sure, you could use 𝘂𝘂𝘂𝘬𝘂𝘂, but that's a big price increase over that Grimaldo card, which might be better. I don't know. I really enjoyed him. It felt like Grimaldo's card of previous years. He was amazing for 30,000 coins. So yeah, I'm definitely going to try to buy a few of him.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I didn't realize he was quite that cheap. Let's move on to you, Brammers. Who are you going to be nominating this week?
Okay, so I had a look around, and I have actually tried some players this week because I've not been to Butlins recently. Shout out the Butlins again. But I looked at the 𝘂𝘂𝘂𝘀𝘁 Keane, and I thought about it because it is reasonably cheap. You can do it with whatever fodders in your leftovers pile, really. But I just feel like for the price, even if you're doing it with leftover fodder, like all you're doing is buying the Power Shot Plus, and they'll probably nerf it as soon as you do that. So I steered away from that in the end. I like the 𝘬𝘯𝘰 objective card as well, the one that's with objective stuff. He looks kind of cool, and I think he Evo as well with that new 100k one, no pressure. But in the end, and this is probably going to age poorly because there is a 𝘭𝘪𝘬𝘂𝗀𝘀 SBC about to hit, but I feel like the 𝘭𝑪𝑖 Horan Trailblazers SBC is the one for me. I'm pretty sure somebody nominated her Team of the Week recently, so I apologise if this is a bit of a dupe, but I do just feel like it's such a great SBC for, what is it, like 120k in elevated fodder prices. And like if you look at that 𝘭𝘪𝘬𝘂𝘀 SBC when it comes out and it's like $1.5 million or something, this is probably going to be quite a nice, cheaper alternative. Her stats across the board are not that massively different to her Team of the Week, except in like 3 key areas. The balance has been boosted really nicely. The defensive awareness and slide tackle are up quite considerably as well. And those things just kind of nudge her into the green on so many areas that are really important. So I feel like she's going to be really good. She's got masses of play style. She's got ping pass plus. So I really like that card. And frankly, I'm probably going to do her even though she feels like a bit of a dupe of my gold 𝘭𝘪𝘂𝘂, and see if I can get her going. I also think she'll gel nicely with that 𝘭𝘪𝘂𝗪𝘀 season reward card, which we should probably all be unlocking. Josh has probably unlocked it already, but the rest of us should be unlocking in the weeks ahead. She gets a nice link to her. So yeah, overall, 𝘭𝘪𝑖's my choice.
Nice. And then we can move on to Josh, who is presumably going to nominate one of the season players, considering you can unlock them today, apparently.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of rumours going around you can finish the season pass already, which is just not true, even though I made a fairly good fake of it the other day. I'm not going to choose a season pass player, but I am going to choose an objective player, and I'm kind of stuck between two, because I think both Omar Marmoush and Nuno Tavares look very good, and I am kind of in Brammers' court that I think that there's definitely a power shot nerf coming. Just the number of players they've released with power shot plus, the fact we got a Evo for it for the Team of the Weeks to give them power shot plus, it feels like it's going to get nerfed soon. So I'm going to go with Nuno Tavares. He's also a lot easier to complete because Omar Marmoush, if you just missed one day of not playing a game, you cannot unlock him, which seems incredibly harsh. It used to be 5 out of 7 days, maybe 6 out of 7 days. Now it's you have to play 6 days in a row. So I'm going to go with Nuno Tavares. He fills a spot that really you were looking at. If you had a Serie A team, you had DiMarco or you had 𝘃𝗲𝗏. And for a free card to kind of save your coins on an 87 rated 400k 𝘃𝗏, I think he's a really, really good option. He's got fullback plus, and the majority of tactics I see now have fullback defend usually, but at least fullback balance. So fullback plus is really nice. Really solid stats across the board. Rapid is going to be great for tracking those like first time over the top through balls that people are spamming now, or the triggered runs down the wings. He's got whipped. So if you do want to have him moving forward, he's got decent dribbling, got decent passing, and has got whipped. Has anticipate, has quick step, which is going to really help with like jockeying. I find quick step is really good defensively. And then flair and long throw are much of a muchness. But you just give him a shadow and he's just solid. He's 6 foot tall. He's not going to get pushed around. Like, I think it's a really, really good objective. Exactly what an objective card should be. Because as I say, the alternatives in that position are incredibly expensive. This is not going to let you down in champs or in rivals. It's just the right kind of card. Good links. Obviously, Portuguese is really nice for linking to different leagues. So yeah, I think Nuno Tavares is just one of those cards that I think could go under the radar a little bit, but I'd be holding him in the club, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's a great nomination because anticipating quick step on a fullback who's that physical is always really good. And he can go into that Trailblazers evolution if you want, get a bit more pace and, you know, a small upgrade across the board there. Before I kind of nominate someone, because it's a bit more of a player review rather than a pound for pound nomination, Nate, do you want to pick last week's pound for pound winner? We had nominated Trailblazers Sad, Total Rush Rodriguez, Trailblazers Stanway, and the Foundation's Sissoko.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be the Foundation Sissoko. Every team I face in Rivals or Weekend League has him in it. So, and yeah, that's insane value. And what a card, especially with the Evos.
I can't believe it was left open on the third pick for me last week.
Just the assumption of some level of like footballing morals from this.
Sorry, I'm using a championship player. What are you talking about?
I take it back.
Kind of an ultimate team legend as well, so you can, you know, have that angle too. I'll just quickly make a kind of nomination. I guess it's not a complete nomination, but sometimes I think it's good to go with players who I think people might have the coins to consider and aren't necessarily maybe like incredible value, but they want to know that they are getting kind of good value out of the coins they're spending, if that makes sense, even if it's a bit more coins than perhaps other players that we normally discuss as pound for pounds. And I'd like to nominate, going back a little bit, the Total Rush Marquinhos, because I picked him up and used him over the course of champs, and yeah, it was just generally quite surprised by how good he felt on the ball. I mean, his stats do reflect that, but it just made a big difference to my ability to play through presses. And I think that is quite underrated on centre-backs. I was playing alongside Militao, who is decent on the ball, but it was just noticeable how much better Marquinhos actually was. And also how good that intercept plus is, which I hadn't used yet. I know some people have used Varane, and so I would have had it with him. Actually, I did use 𝘵𝑝𝗄𝘰 really early on, but it's been a while since using her, and it wasn't for very long. But it's great how with Intercept Plus, it seems to improve their, I guess, ability to stop balls in the air, which for him being smaller is really helpful. Because it does flash up when you head away a pass, for example, you'll notice. And so, yeah, I found him really good at sort of stopping passes through the defense in a way that maybe other players were having to kind of chase back to get to the ball after it had gone through, where he's just cutting it out at source with his Intercept Plus. And as I said, very good at moving the ball out from the back. So I think the League 1 options are kind of improving, so he might be a decent player to pick up as those more expensive centre-backs that are goals kind of drop in price and become quite risky, I guess, to hold on to. I guess they might, hold value okay. Someone who's out of packs like him for 140k, I don't think is a bad player to get. And he does have Defender Plus, which is quite nice too. Right, let's move on to some other chat about players, because of course there have been plenty of SBCs as we alluded to this week. Probably the most notable one I would say this week has been the Musiala. Josh, any thoughts on him? Obviously, Japes, if he was here, would I'm sure be waxing lyrical about him. He does look pretty good.
Yeah, it's an interesting SBC because I've seen a lot of kind of talk about it being overpriced and that it's only a +1. But to kind of come back to your Marquinhos point, which is a great shout, by the way, I think he's one of the best centre-backs on the game. If you actually look at the in-game stats and the upgrades they're getting, Marquinhos got a +1 in dribbling, but received a +6 in agility and a +7 in balance, which is going to make him feel like 10 times better on the ball. And when we look at that Musiala card, he has massive upgrades in shooting and passing. And for me, it does a couple of different things. It changes the chem style that you can use on him, because now you're not trying to boost, say, his 78 passing because it's gone up to 83, or even if his shooting. So now you can focus on really making him quicker, maybe giving a bit of physical. Like, he doesn't have the same big stat jump compared to the overall boost that Marquinhos has, but I just think it's one of those kind of SBCs you've got to look a bit deeper into, like, what's actually being boosted, how much is it being boosted by. And if you look at comparable players, you probably go with like Rush Wirtz, who's a bit better. Like, I'm not going to say that they're the same player, but he's only 4-star, 4-star. He's not 5-star, 4-star. And that card is like 600k. So I actually don't think it was a terrible SBC. And especially with the way that all of the player SBCs seem to be being dealt with at the moment, where if they aren't like the bleeding edge of the power curve, then they're very cheap to complete. There are lots of like 81, 82, 83 rated squads. I'm fine with having one SBC each week that maybe requires a little bit more, like this Musiala does.
Oh, I have some serious regret having put the fodder into an icon SBC rather than Musiala, I have to say. It was sadly Veron, who is probably the worst. I don't know whether he's the worst. He's one of the worst you can get for sure in terms of value. He is pretty much the worst. So that was painful. And I think Musiala, looks very good. I agree. Having used his gold quite a bit, I think he's good. And actually there are some notable improvements in terms of playstyle here, which I think will help him quite a bit too. So yeah, a good point to make. And are there any other SBC players people want to mention?
I would say I do think that Lewandowski is a little bit tempting. He's always kind of underrated because of his pace, but that's a fun looking card.
Yeah.
And having an untradeable one in the club wouldn't be the worst.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Lewandowski actually does look pretty good. And then, Nate, anything from an SBC perspective, player-wise, you wanted to mention?
Obviously, the cheap ones like Thauvin and 𝘬𝘃𝗧, when you have extra 81s and 2s laying around in the club, duplicate storage, just make those useful, honestly, and stock those players in your club they're both French. Maybe when the One Nation friendly comes back, or if you're still doing that could help you there, or also for future Evos. So, yeah.
I think that's really good advice. Like, you probably can complete those with your dupe storage, can't you? And there's just always a chance they're going to end up being good evolutions. And also, as you say, like 𝘬𝘃𝗧, actually, I used 𝘬𝘬𝗧 a bit, and he's really solid. Like, he has a good selection of play styles, and he's a decent presence, decently quick, really nicely set up for an evolution in the future. And then Josh, the Robbie Keane, I think he's had a bit of a stick because he's theoretically quite expensive at 300k, but I think the highest rated squad there is an 85, or the 285 rated squads, right? And I guess, he's power shot, he's got high dribbling, he has a lot of things going for him, I guess. Premier League boost as well to chemistry. I don't think it's as perhaps bad as maybe some people have made out.
It's testing, I think, the waters of these more expensive SBCs with just having lots of squads. It's made the price of 84 rated cards go up a lot because there's 484 rated squads required. In terms of the card itself, it's one of those that I don't want to play good, but it will be very good. Because, he can't pass, he's got terrible physicals, but he's quick, has got really good dribbling, average shooting, and has got power shot plus. It's going to make him really difficult to play against. If you aren't, I don't want to use the word abusing because I think it's overused, but using power shot plus, you're going to work out how broken it is using this card, because he's got everything you need, and how quickly he'll be able to do it, the speed with which he'll be able to hit the shots, especially if you play him I presume everyone's playing with him a hunter because everyone just wants that like maxed out pace. So he's gonna have like 88 shot power with 93 finishing. It's going to be a good card. It is a bit expensive. I think I have a feeling this could be one of those cards that gets left behind by the power curve.
Yeah,
as when we go into Black Friday, but that's still like 3-4 weeks away. So. Yeah, it's a good SBC. I don't think it deserved the stick that it got, and the number of people I saw using him this weekend probably suggests that people sucked it up a little bit.
Yeah, and then just to wrap up our chat about SBCs, we have seen the first uncapped hero gamble SBC, and it's not terribly expensive, Nate, but I do think heroes are a bit tricky because they're not quite as useful for chemistry as icons, and there is quite a big pool of not particularly useful heroes, so I can see why it's the price it is. I mean, you do run a road to glory, and I know you're careful with your fodder. Are you going to be doing this? Have you done it?
You know, yesterday I had intentions of not doing it because I was like, oh, they're going to make it more expensive since it's uncapped, and the last one was 3 squads, which it wasn't crazy expensive anyway, but then it comes out and it's even cheaper than the max 88, so I did insta-complete it, and it was my best hero pull of the year. I got 𝘃𝗲𝗏𝘀𝘀. So, okay. I'm taking that, and after using him in game, I'm very pleased with him. So, this is probably, though, where I'm going to call it quits for a while, especially because I need fodder for the SBCs that are upcoming, and it just feels like some of the player SBCs that we've been getting recently, we're turning the corner a little bit. Sure, there's a lot of cheaper ones and fodder ones, if you will, but we've started to see more, I don't know, like SBCs that would be a mainstay in your team for a while, it seems, or news of that type of player, I guess. Players that have playstyle pluses and bigger stat boost and roll pluses, whereas in the earliest stages of the year, they didn't have those as often.
Well, yeah, there is a very good chance by the time you're listening to this, listeners, but not when we're recording, that there's a 𝘃𝗲𝗏 SBC out, and it'll probably be, I don't know, 1.5 million coins, which is roughly the same as the total rush that's out there already. But people are saying it will have the tiki-taka plus playstyle, which is a nice point of difference, I guess, with both the total rush and the gold version. But the gold version is like 300k, so it's a serious commitment, and I guess we may talk about it a bit more in the next podcast, because I don't know how many people will have started committing already by the time they're listening to this, and how many people would even want to necessarily, but we'll see. For now, we'll take a quick break actually, and we'll be back to talk about the season pass and more in just a second. Hello and welcome back after the break. Right, let's talk about the season pass, because we've got a new season. The previous one is over, and well, it had quite mixed reviews, I guess. And I think, Josh, that was partly because they sort of, well, they did mess up the season pass initially. There were players which were loans, which weren't loans, and I guess that meant people initially thought it was pretty poor, when actually, I guess, probably not too dissimilar to last season in the end.
I think there's a whole host of things that have gone into people's reaction to this season in general. And it's not just the fact that, you know, it said it was loans for level like 25 and 34 or whatever the two levels are. It was also the fact that you couldn't claim the packs. Like, you'd claim the packs at the beginning of the season and they didn't show up. Like, objectives that you completed weren't adding the SP they said they would be to the season pass. Like, it wasn't very good across the board. I don't think bundled rewards help in objectives, because you can't actually see the packs that you're getting, because they've made the bundled packs, I think, better this season than last season. The fact that it's a shorter season didn't help. You know, it's only 4 weeks long, and so you're not going to get the same volume of things as you got last season. But if you didn't know the issues that happened when the season got launched, I don't think the season's that bad. Like, that 𝘃𝗏𝗏 card is mental, and because we know how quick you can complete the season, you're going to get it fairly quickly. You've then also got a really good goalkeeper from the Premier League. That's Argentinian. That's a decent league to link, a decent country to link as well. Like, I think it's okay. Again, I also think the final pack is a killer. 75 by 100 gets nobody excited because week on week, we see people in champs and in rivals getting 75 by 15, 20s, 25, 50s, and they get nothing. I've seen people open 75 by 50s and not get a walkout, not even get an 84 rated card. Like, so when you go, oh, it's a 75 by 100, great. I'm going to have 100 duplicates that I need to do of 79 rated players. And yeah, I can go and complete all of those like low rated SBCs to go and get players that aren't going to get in my team. But if that was an 85 by 10 or an 87 by 5, it was an 87 by 3 last season. And we get an 87 by 2 this season. That's great. But there's got to be some element of ramping going on with it. And I think if it didn't have any of the issues, I think if people saw that you get the loans of these cards for 4 days, you can try them out and then make your decision on which one, Marlon or Grealish, you want to pick at the end. I think people have gone, this is cool. I like this. This is an interesting development. But I mean, it was so sloppy. And like, Brammers, I don't, as a game critic, are there live service games like this? Because I'm one of those players that only plays like FC. I don't really experience anything outside of it. Do other games have this issue?
So, I mean, it's not unheard of for the transition to a new season to in a live service game to be a bit buggy and to have issues. Usually they get ironed out quite quickly. Usually they're not too catastrophic. Like the other live service game I play religiously is Destiny 2. And when there's a new season, there's usually like a couple of little bugs. But the sloppiness around this is, I think, two things. First of all, it is extremely representative of the experience of playing EAFC generally. They always have a ton of issues. And second, it's just a shambles. I absolutely agree that the content taken objectively from a distance looks pretty good. I am also excited about that Marlon card. The greyish loan has been fun to play with. And I get they must be dealing with a lot of legacy systems, but fix it. You've had plenty of opportunity, and God knows you've got the resources. Stop making the moments when we should be getting most excited about the game, the launches of new things, into another opportunity for us all to go, oh, bloomin' EA, look what they've done this time.
We also haven't mentioned the best thing about the new season. True. Because we're so distracted by everything else. And it's Rivals.
Yeah.
They've actually fixed Rivals in the second season. Like, this is so quick compared to what you'd expect, which, I mean, says to me, they saw playing figures fall off a cliff in Rivals after the first couple of weeks. But 35 points instead of 45 points, that's like a decent chunk of games that now you don't need to play. It makes your draws actually meaningful. Like, if you get 2 draws on the way, now you don't need that extra game, that extra win to get there. It was, and they buffed the 5 win rewards as well, which also went under the radar because people immediately go to the best rewards. But actually, the 5 win rewards now are really, really good compared to what they were. So they did the things we were asking, and it was a really positive change. But the problem is that it comes dressed in this like glitchy, buggy, kind of unfinished package that really, as you said, kind of represents the game as a whole. I feel like this year it feels, or has felt, unfinished. And I think people are getting a bit tired of it.
Absolutely. I just feel like it's creaking. You can feel it creaking at the seams all the time with stuff like this. And were this a scrappy indie games company, then I think we'd have more goodwill towards it. But we all know that it isn't. We all know what they've got coming in income-wise. They just need to sort it out. And I'm really bored of it.
Yeah. And I'm also just kind of bored about talking about it on the podcast, right? Because just every week we have to spend time talking about some other thing that's caused the problem, when actually it's nice to focus on the things that people can take away to, whether it's improve their game or improve their team or whatever. And you end up focusing on these things. And there was the whole Rush debacle over the last day or so where you could basically just quit out of a Rush match and it gave you credit towards that Trailblazers versus Team of the Week objective. And so, I guess it was just mass quitting going on, which just feels really strange. And I don't know, I guess worsens the experience. Although weirdly is a better experience for players than I guess teammates rubber banding, right? So I don't know. It's been a strange week. I don't know whether Nate, you want to add anything in there. I know we've talked a lot about it now.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add except for getting evolutions done in Rush right now is a little easier because half the time the opponent's team will quit out if you're not quitting. So that's currently what I'm doing.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, sort of speed run some evolutions. And then I guess we can maybe move on to the players in the season pass. Just a quick overview, seeing as this is the first time we're seeing them. I think Josh, you covered a few of them there. I would also say that Marlon looks very good. Quickstep is really good, Quickstep Plus. And I think while Grealish is nice, if you want to put some whippies in the box, I think Marlon as a sort of more direct option, looks even better in some ways. And then further down the sort of pecking order, I think you mentioned her, Brammers, but Carpenter looks pretty good as well.
Yeah, definitely. I've got my eye on her. Enjoying the American links, the 𝘭𝘪𝘬𝘦, the French Women's League One links, and I definitely will be giving her a run out when the opportunity arises. Which I, like Josh, have been abusing the campaign, whatever you call it, career mode XPs and things like that. So it shouldn't be too long, hopefully.
Yeah, actually, it's worth mentioning that as we start of a new season, Josh. It is very easy to pick up points if you want some extras from the likes of career mode. I guess clubs to an extent, but career mode is really the big one, I think, for easy points.
Yeah, career mode and player career are the two easiest places to go and pick up some quick XP. Like, to get all of it is going to be a little more arduous, but if you're going to go and play, 10 squad battles games to get some XP, then you can do that in career mode and player career at any time, really, and collect a similar, if not more, XP or SP now.
Yeah. Have they still got the ones for just changing your tactic and that sort of thing?
Yeah, changing your tactic, hiring a coach, all those kinds of really, there's
literally
loads of guides now out there. Yeah.
And once you've done it once, you'll know how to do it again, and you can just be racking up 1,500 maybe from those?
Yes. Yeah. Although they have reduced it a little bit this season. Not too much, but they have reduced it a little bit.
Yeah. I'm sure it's definitely worth doing still though, isn't it? Because it's so little time for a decent, consistent XP boost every now and again, I guess, or SP boost, I should say. And we should move on to talk about evolutions, because we've had the most expensive evolution we've had so far in FC25, and that is that no pressure evolution. It's an interesting one because it isn't a playstyle that everyone knows about or knows how good it is. And we've talked on the podcast before about how it's a really good playstyle because it increases your ability to hold the ball tight to the player, I guess, as you're dribbling, and it helps a lot for shielding. Really good on bigger players who would otherwise be quite clunky, even with decent dribbling stats. And I think the only concern here is, I don't know how much future chaining potential it has. It may be a bit of a limitation of this.
Yes and no. I'm cautiously optimistic because the day before yesterday, we got Incisive Deep Lying Playmaker, which was the centre mid evolution that gave a decent boost, weak foot increase, a roll plus, couple of play styles, and that had 0 playstyle plus or roll plus requirements. And
when you say 0, you mean there weren't any?
As in there weren't any, yes. It wasn't max 0. You could put a player in there who had a roll plus or had a playstyle plus, and they could go into that evolution. And as long as we get enough of those Evos throughout this period now towards Team of the Year, where we're limited to 1 playstyle plus, as long as they give us enough of those, I don't know how cautious I would be about giving a player a playstyle plus. I think what we've actually reached, though, is a weird point with Evos where people who have their Evo teams have now done most of the available Evos. We've had a load of them expire, and so every one of their team has now been evolved up to a certain point. And the kind of one is when we get a new evolution like this, no pressure, it's like, right, who goes in there? Let's put them in there straight away. Whereas I would actually say I would be cautious, but just give it the 14 days we have before you have to submit it and see what other Evos come out, because there is every chance that you'll be able to, chain it. I've seen a lot of people, for example, with the Hey Jude Evo, which came on Thursday with the new season and was like a bonus for playing the game. That is an evolution that has no expiry date. Now it does have max playstyle 0, playstyle plus 0, and max rolls plus 0. So you're going to have to be careful about how you chain into that evolution. But yeah, I don't know. The no pressure one, it's expensive. 100,000 coins is a lot of coins. But some of the cards that come out of this Evo are really good. Press Proven Plus is a really good playstyle plus, and I think it's not the elite tier, it's not your power shot, finesse shot, it's not one of those, but it is very good. And so I think it warrants the price. It's also a very good upgrade. Like if you actually look, it's a +6 overall with then +4, 6, 6, 7, and 8 across the stats. And usually in these stat limit Evos, when we get an overall boost, it's higher than the actual individual stat upgrades the cards get, whereas it's the opposite here. So yeah, I think it's a really good Evo. It's probably one that's going to come towards the end of a chain of a player that you're doing. But actually, because it's only max playstyle +0, it's one that I think does chain fairly well. And as I say, we've seen some fairly nice cards come out of this because the max stat ratings are pretty generous in some areas. And, in pace, for example, it goes up to 87. Well, if you're using this on a midfielder, then that's a really nice looking midfielder card if they've got 87 pace. So yeah, I'm not too, I don't think I would be too cautious about it. It's obviously a lot of coins. It's not one that your casual player is going to go and do, I don't think, unless they're running an Evo squad, which is the only reason really I would do paid Evos anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I maybe sounded a bit harsh on the Evo. I was just saying that there are some things to think about considering it gives a playstyle plus, but actually in terms of the value of some of the players it's creating, like I was looking at that 𝘭𝘪𝘤𝘦, Kyle Walker, notoriously slightly clunky on the ball, but he can have the press proven plus and a decent stat boost. So I think that the players it's creating are actually worth more than 100k. It's just whether you want to, commit that kind of coin value and just sort of forfeit it completely, which of course you have to do. So probably worth waiting, as you say, until later on before you complete.
We should also just point out, this is the Marquinhos Llorente Evo.
Yes, that's true.
It's come at a very similar time to last year. It gives him a really nice upgrade, and the card is comparable to his Trailblazer card that is 260k. Like his Trailblazer is a little bit quicker, but it's got worse shooting, passing, dribbling, and then is slightly better defending and physical. But obviously this evolution has press proven plus. So, we've got it. We finally got the comparison we were asking for last year. And I think the Evo last year was 150k for the Centurions box-to-box midfielder. So really, this is a bargain. Everyone should be doing it.
Get your Llorentes now. Anything to add on I guess generally on evolutions, but it could be about that one. Up to you.
I think the thing that I noticed with the 𝘂𝘂𝘠 and the no pressure Evo is the stat limits. They're all kind of like 85 is kind of the highest one. A lot of 82s and 3s and 80 even for a couple of different stats. So that seems to be how EA is trying to keep the massive upgrades. Like on the 𝘂𝘂𝘠 Evo, it's like +10s and 20s and stuff like that, which is really nice for a silver card. But, you want to Evo like that 𝘭𝘂𝘁 or something like that, then you're not getting as big of a boost because of stat limits. So I think the stat limits are good, but also sometimes a little annoying because you're like, oh, +10 shooting. Oh, my card gets +3, something like that.
Yeah, talking of actually, an interesting one we had was the La Blue evolution, which is basically La Roja. I mean, it's not, it's a very different evolution, but a similar theme to La Roja where you can upgrade Spanish players because last season was Spanish themed, this one's French themed. But I think the concern here, maybe 𝘂𝘂𝘂𝘀 plus is good, but I think most people have success without the playstyle plus really. And it's quite a nice upgrade for midfielders and defensive players who don't necessarily want the 𝘂𝘂𝘂𝘂 plus. And I was looking, and you can leave it to expire if you want potentially and skip out on the 𝘂𝘂𝘂𝘂 plus. You lose out on some other playstyles as well. But for certain players, especially if they're close to the overall cap, I think that could actually be quite a good way to go with that, because you could add a pretty nice all-round boost to a player, boosting some key stats as well, but then not take on the 𝘂𝘂𝘂𝘂 plus by leaving it to expire without doing that final level, and then take them on into some other evolutions moving forward, which give a more suitable playstyle plus. So maybe just worth looking out for that if you'd like to, but just be aware it is adding a big overall boost to the player, which isn't always what you'd necessarily want.
I put Wilson Odobert from Spurs in that one, and now you got me thinking, do I stop at level 2 or do I go for the full level 3 to get the rest of the pace boost and the 𝘂𝘂𝘂𝘂𝘂 plus and the skill moves? I don't know. I'm thinking now. But the overall rating stays the same. So
exactly. Yeah, it is worth it, I think, on players who need those things, obviously, but some don't. Like, he's quite pacey anyway, isn't he? And some of them add like a roll plus or plus plus at the end. but this one doesn't. So yeah, it's definitely something to look out for, I guess, especially if you're not planning to use the player particularly soon and can kind of leave them to cook over time.
Yep, that's right. Yep.
Let him cook.
Let him cook in the Evo Lab.
Well, actually, talking of Evo Lab, there is actually an improvement that I wanted to point out. Not actually in the Evo Lab on FUT.gg, but in the filters elsewhere. When you're looking for a new evolution, you can now, in one click, exclude the evolutions from those filters that are used by players in your Evo Lab.
Oh, that's going to be sick, because that's the main thing I would moan about if I was going to moan about anything.
Yeah, I was moaning about it too, so I'm glad it's finally done. Saved me a lot of time already. And for those wondering about Evo Lab, if you're using the FUT.gg app, you may not know much about it. So that's because it's coming soon to the Evo Lab, although it should actually be really quite soon. So hopefully not too long till it appears. It is all right on mobile web if you'd like to do it there. Instead, you just need to log in to, save your Evos, and you can see which ones can be upgraded. It's very useful. And let us move on to, actually, before we wrap up Evos, Josh, just quickly, I think we've covered pretty much all of them now, apart from those Team of the Week ones, which I think were pretty decent, right?
Well, there's some free evolutions that are going to give us playstyle pluses. Sounds good to me.
Good playstyle pluses as well. Intercept plus, power shot plus.
Yeah, the one thing I would say, just to wrap it all together, complete those low-rated SBC cards that you don't think are brilliant, but, are good, have decent stats, because they're going to be the ones that you see in about 2 months' time that go into an evolution and look ridiculous. And it was exactly what happened last year. It was the Squad Foundations players a lot last year as well. So just don't get rid of things that, unless you absolutely have to. You want to try and keep special cards, especially if they've got stats above their rating, or like well-rounded stats, and don't have a playstyle plus. Keep an eye on those kinds of cards. That would be my last word on that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Right, let's take a break and we'll talk about what's to come in Ultimate Team over the next week in just a second. Hello, a quick reminder in this break to both listeners and supporters. There is a supported Discord for gold or icon supporters of the podcast, and in there you'll find a whole section where you can arrange rush matches and get some good teammates to make progress. And there is a champs channel for commiserating about champs generally or getting a bit of advice. And there's the FUT Advice channel, which is specifically for all Ultimate Team advice. There's plenty of other resources in there too, and a fantastic community. So if you haven't signed up already, then do sign up, become a supporter on the gold or icon tiers, and you'll get the bonus podcast that you get on the bonus podcast tier, plus access to the Discord too. It would be great to have you in there. Just search Support FUT Weekly and you can find the options for signing up over on Patreon. A huge thank you if you decide to do so, and a huge thank you, of course, to all those supporters keeping the podcast going. And let's jump back into this week's pod. Hello, welcome back after the break. Right, I mean, we're pretty sure, right, that we're going to get Centurions next, Josh, because that's what's in the season pass. There's some stuff added to the code as per usual. But maybe worth a little reminder about what the idea there was when they did it last time, because I guess it'll be similar.
There was an idea behind Centurions last time?
I asked that and I was like, I'm not sure there even was it? Was it just that they were sort of older, more experienced players who just got a bit of a pace boost inevitably because they needed it to be usable, I guess? I'm not really sure.
I don't know what to expect, really, from Centurions. I think it will be a bog standard team, but I am surprised we're in nearly mid-November and don't have any special icons yet or heroes.
Mm-hmm. And has a card design been added for those?
Yes, for the icons. So I think last year we had dynasties around this time.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
And I wonder if we're going to have something like that with Centurions. Obviously, it won't be the dynasties, which I think was like kind of familial links. But I wonder if that's what this new promo is going to be. I would expect a 2-week promo, and then we'll have a week building up to Black Friday. So yeah, I think Centurions looks like it's going to be fairly decent again. I don't know if it's going to be a power curve pusher. Obviously, it depends how packable the icons are. But I mean, the thing with Trailblazers was it gave everybody a roll plus and a playstyle plus. And I would expect that to be the norm for every kind of new promo coming forward. So I think we'll maybe start seeing people talk more about roll pluses in the next few weeks. That would be my expectation.
And yeah, Nate, how do you see this going? I feel like it could be an opportunity for them to kind of step up the power curve, but also kind of, I don't know, the hype around the promos with icons potentially.
Yeah, I really think that the icons are going to be kind of the pull. I mean, how many would we expect? Probably not too many more than a handful. Like last year's Centurions team and Dynasties both were the first times that we saw special icons, I think. And it wasn't like, here's a team of promo cards and here's a team of icons. It was a mixed bag of both. So I think they'll probably try to throw in some of those icons. I don't know if they'll do that via SBC or if they'll start with we still haven't had a base icon SBC, which seems kind of wild since we had at least two notable ones last year up till this time.
You brought up an interesting point there just quickly about no icon player SBCs. And I wonder if this is a move by EA to stop price drops in players' cards because of SBCs, because they were brutal last year. And I wonder if we'll only get promo icon SBCs this year.
Yeah, I hope that's the case, because it's quite a weird thing where we don't have that in the game apart from for those base icons, where you had a player on the market in packs at the same time as they're available in an SBC, and that inevitably crashed the player's price on the market or reduced it significantly. I mean, obviously it would depend on the price of the SBC, but it also meant, I think EA found it quite hard to price the SBCs well. They would often be absolute must-dos or just far too expensive. And of course, that player would devalue over time as people completed the SBC too. And there's not that kind of, I guess, desirability there because it's a one-off thing like most SBCs are, which kind of allows them to put a bit of a premium, I guess, if they want to on players, or makes it harder to price.
Yeah. So
I think although people might miss the base icon SBCs, if they do the campaign icon SBCs right, I think that'll be the better way to go and should, I guess, protect those base icon prices a little bit and not mean people have to be so concerned if they're going to pick one up that they'll suddenly crash in price as well. Nate, then let's talk about the market a bit. What is going on market-wise at the moment?
You know, we had that big market crash last week where, like, just to play off the top of the head, Xianmin Sun went from 300,000 coins to like 160, 170K. And this week the market was a lot more chill. But I would still imagine that if we're going to get promo icons and a new promo team, Centurions, you know, just heading into Black Friday, we are in November. So I would imagine there's to be a few more price drops, maybe not as drastic right away, but at least headed towards Black Friday and that time of the year with all the stuff that comes out then. And even just the anticipation of it is part of it as well. The hype of it creates some market crash movement. That's probably going to happen again soon.
Yeah, and talking of rises and falls, I guess we could be seeing some this week because we have the road to knockout continuing with various European competitions this week. I guess we have quite a few players, Josh, quite close to their, actually double upgrades in some cases. So if that happens, you know, I could maybe see, I don't know, that tends not to be a huge rise, but certainly if it doesn't happen, we could see some drop-offs in prices. There's a new tracker actually on FUT.gg for all the live players that are out there, including showdowns, for example. So people should check that out. But is there anything to kind of note on that, Josh, for people?
Be wary of price drops. Even when players do get their upgrades, sometimes the upgrade is baked into the card price itself. So, yeah, I mean, you look at like Van Dijk's road to the knockout, he needs Liverpool to score and he gets an 1+ overall and a roll ++. So that's pretty scary. I actually don't know how many players can get a double upgrade. I think 𝘵𝘃𝗵𝗀𝘀 is definitely one of them, and 𝘭𝘪𝘬𝘦 is the other one that comes to mind. But they just need to win and score. Obviously, you can't win without scoring, and we'll get the double upgrade. Julian Brandt's one I would keep an eye on because his price kind of dropped fairly rapidly a while ago. But you give a +2 to his card and another roll ++. That's going to be quite a nice looking card with tiki-taka plus good play styles. So yeah, this obviously we had so many cards. It's worth keeping an eye on them. Quite a few that could go. Robin Koch's another one I'm kind of interested in. Make your own jokes. And it'll be interesting to see how the games go this week. And hopefully we do get some upgrades because it's been fairly drawn out, this Champions League, it feels like.
Yeah, I would just add on top of that, in agreement with Josh, like price drops after a player has achieved their upgrades after being already kind of baked into that price, especially with the way the third upgrade looks, it's going to be really tough to get top 2 in the league table. So after you get that second upgrade, I would imagine that a lot of the cards kind of fall off, because then the hype for further upgrades significantly decreases, and that's probably going to have an impact on the price. So selling in the hype is always the good option, but especially here, I think.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Good advice. And on that, I think we're ready to wrap up this content episode. So Nate, it's been great to have you on. Of course, more market updates, market chat on your Twitch and YouTube over at the FUT Accountant. Thank you very much for joining us for this one.
Thank you as always, Ben. It's a blast being on, and looking forward to, I don't know, maybe they'll drop that Centurions upgrade again and have 100 players pack. Who knows if it'll be worth it.
Yeah, it will be interesting indeed. Thank you, Nate. And thank you very much to Brammers for critiquing and consulting with us. Always appreciated.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Always fun. Yeah, see you on the stream later, Nate. I've got my Amazon Prime ready for you. So
Legend.
Take care.
And we've also had Josh. Josh, thank you very much. We're going to be heading off to the gameplay pod, the supporter episode. But it's been good to have you on this one.
Yeah, it's been cracking to be here. And yeah, UCL nights are back. And everyone's very excited about them.
Yeah. Even
not really.
I was going to say,
are we? 36 teams is too many to keep track of in one league table.
Yeah, it does feel a bit mental, actually. Anyway, it's been great to have you all along, listeners, for this podcast. Of course, if you are listening on YouTube, do drop a comment, leave a like. If you are catching this on the various different podcast platforms, do subscribe via those. And if you would like an extra podcast every single week, then you can support. It's just £3 a month and you get double the podcast content. Head over and search Support for Weekly to find the patron. If you are a supporter, a huge thank you, and a huge thank you to those icon patrons: Dave B, Hugh J, Jeff B, Darren W, Warren A, Stephen M, Waterman, Dan W, Roger D, Rob P, Lee A, Dom P, L M, Damon H, The Shirt Locker, Alex M, Tom B, Jake S, Neil P, Michael K, David G, Andrew R, Michael H, Jimmy K, Brendan T, Berta Saka, Michael B, Brian V, Josh R, Brent P, Rob W, and 𝘵𝘂𝘁. Plus a special thanks to Luke M, Dave B, Hugh J, Tom M, Darren W, and Pato Foot for advice and production assistance. Before I leave you, just one more thing to add though. Ultimate Team is a bit like life really. It has its many ups and downs. If you're having a few more downs than ups in real life in these more difficult times, then please don't feel that you're alone or need to struggle on without taking action. If you go to thecalmzone.net, there's loads of resources, advice, support, or even just a friendly chat for anyone who needs it. If it sounds like it could help you, then head over to thecalmzone.net. And for now, have a good one, and I'll catch you on the next podcast.